Today, we're exploring how the Paris 2024 Olympics have become a stage for politics and propaganda. From Russia's absence to China's influence and France's controversial choices, discover how these games reflect deeper geopolitical tensions. The Olympics used to be all about peace. For over 2,000 years, it was a way for countries to compete without fighting wars and causing suffering. But now, the Paris Olympics have made things worse. Today, the Games show how divided our world is, with politics and propaganda taking over sports and fair play at every level. It's a reminder that the spirit of true competition and unity is fading fast. Let's explore how the Paris 2024 Olympics, which initially held promise as a means to ease political tensions, have instead evolved into a platform for governments to amplify divisions. While using the Olympics for political agendas isn't new, the impact now extends beyond the competition itself, influencing nearly every aspect surrounding the Games. During the 1936 Berlin Olympics, Germany used the event to spread propaganda and showcase their supposed racial superiority. However, this plan backfired when American athlete Jesse Owens won 4 gold medals, defeating Germany's top competitors. Similarly, in 1980, during the height of the Cold War, the Moscow Olympics were marred by a boycott led by the US, with 60 other countries joining in. As a result, the Soviet Union dominated a largely non-competitive games, with the best performances and records falling well below the norm. At the following Olympics in Los Angeles, a similar scenario occurred. The Soviets and their allies chose to boycott the games, which once again affected the quality of the competition. Without their biggest rival, the US was able to gain a significant advantage, making substantial profits and using the event to promote their own ideology to a global audience. Today, the split between the world's two main sides still affects the Olympics. While most countries are taking part, Russian athletes are still missing. Russia was already in trouble because of a state-sponsored doping scandal. Though many athletes from different countries have been caught using steroids, it's a bigger issue when the government itself is behind it. At first, Russian athletes could compete under a neutral flag, but this was just a short-term fix. After Russia invaded Ukraine, they were only allowed to compete as individual neutral athletes. And even then, just 15 of them showed up. With Russian athletes banned, the Russian government has effectively labeled anyone competing in the Olympics as a traitor. The Games have been removed from Russian TV, and the country is acting as if they don't exist. Despite the challenge of finding a solution, this situation is disappointing. Russia, which has won the 3rd most medals in Olympic history, has made many events in the 2024 Olympics less competitive. The biggest impact is on Russian athletes who are forced to choose between their safety and their sport. This situation also underscores the rising tensions between major world powers. The absence of Russian athletes is a troubling indicator of how close the West and Russia are to conflict. Other global powers are also using the Olympics to push their own agendas. For instance, China cannot accept the idea that Taiwan is a separate country. By applying diplomatic and Olympic pressure, China has forced the Games to refer to Taiwan as Chinese Taipei, which suggests it owns the island nation. The Taiwanese flag is banned, and any political statements about Taiwan or its independence are prohibited. This extends to fans as well. Even a simple sign from a Taiwanese supporter was quickly confiscated. The removal of Taiwan's national identity is a troubling sign of what could happen in the future. As this situation continues, people might become more accustomed to this new reality. It's a chilling reminder of how the world might come to accept Xi Jinping's One China policy. If the world is ready to ignore such issues, there's concern about how far China might push its agenda. France has also seized this opportunity to advance its own values, though with less intensity than China. A notable and controversial decision is the ban on certain religious head coverings, such as the hijab. France, with its strong commitment to secularism, prohibits anyone representing the state from wearing religious symbols or clothing. This law impacts French athletes, especially Muslims. While some view this as an expression of French cultural values, human rights groups and the Olympic Association have voiced concerns. Despite various protests, the ban remains in effect. The Paris Olympics opening ceremony stirred controversy with a unique portrayal of the Last Supper, featuring drag queen disciples and a naked blue Jesus. This seemed deliberately provocative toward religious conservatives, even though France later claimed it wasn't meant to represent Christianity. This weak defense is undermined by the obvious similarities to Da Vinci's famous painting. The social media buzz around the Olympics may be more influential than the games themselves. Managing how the public perceives the event is key for propaganda. Countries like Russia, even with only a few athletes participating, play a major role in shaping these narratives. Russian troll farms and bots often spread false information and rumors. Although many of these are swiftly disproven, the sheer volume of AI-generated content and fake news can still make an impact. For example, a controversy arose over an Algerian Olympic boxer accused of competing in women's boxing, despite being biologically male. Russian bots spread this story, generating over 10,000 posts per hour. In reality, the athlete had a rare genetic disorder that affected hormone levels. Regardless of one's stance on the issue, the Olympics need to establish clear rules and ensure fair competition. It's unfortunate that social media debates often overshadow the actual events and personal stories from the Games. Doping issues continue to tarnish the Games. China's swimming team has faced accusations of using performance-enhancing drugs. In 2021, 23 team members tested positive for TMZ, a substance that boosts endurance by improving blood flow. China attributed this to contaminated food, and the Olympics accepted this explanation, effectively downplaying the incident. As the current Olympics unfold, China is still performing exceptionally well. Meanwhile, countries like Australia have accused them of doping, though whether these claims are valid is yet to be determined. If the Olympics can overlook an entire country's existence, they might also be lenient in other areas. The struggle between spotting hard-to-detect drugs and improving testing accuracy will continue. Without strict penalties, cheating will likely persist, as the rewards of winning, like prestige and propaganda, often outweigh the risks of getting caught. The focus of the Olympics has shifted more towards appearances and national rivalries, rather than the sports themselves. But in a year's time, people will remember the personal stories and magical moments from the Games, not just the medals or rankings. For those who can see past the controversies, the Olympics are still a special event worth celebrating. If the competition remains fair, the next Games in Los Angeles could still offer an unforgettable experience. What are your thoughts on the current state of the Olympics? Share your comments below.